June 15th, Monday. Piotr here, this is Light Forex Global YouTube channel. Good morning from Europe, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, guys. This is the weekly open related to the indices. Brutal start when it comes to the Tokyo session. Outbreak when it comes to the coronavirus in China. New cases in Japan, weak Chinese data, industrial production weaker, as retail sales weaker, unemployment rate stable. Brutal start. Market is trying to recover during the early minutes of the European Open. So let's go through few charts when it comes to the indices. Let's have a look where we are and what we eventually might expect. Anyway, let's start with the Nasdaq, the strongest one, right? Based on the weekly chart, what is important, what I would like to you to focus on that chart is the weekly close, right? So Thursday, Friday, we've seen gonna be visible on the daily post FOMC. Thursday, Friday, we've seen move to the downside, right? That's the candle, right? But late New York Friday, there was a buying going on and the creation of the lower shadow. Why? Because bulls were trying to defend latest weakness. So the close was ideal, right? The close was right at the latest weakness level around 9,650 based on my chart. Now, one can argue, okay, but we gap down and we are falling off the cliff. Okay, cool. I do understand that market been looking for those stops below previous week low and 2 weeks ago low. Okay, what I would like you to know is Friday, right? Quadruple witches coming in, so be careful trying to chase the market right here, right now. I do expect eventually that we are going to retest that pre-breakout high, right? Meaning that today's low are gonna be taken out, more stops, and maybe we are going to attempt to come back. Nasdaq is the strongest. Be careful, guys. That's how it looks from the weekly. From the daily, it looks a little bit different. It looks in favor of sellers. Yes, completely different. 180 degrees different. Why? Because that's the latest weakness, and that's where we close Thursday and Friday below that level. So let me put the green line, right? Daily chart. That's how it looks on a daily. We had high wave candle on Friday when market was trying to come back. Unfortunately, it didn't materialize, right? And we are right now even lower below the latest demand from where we made new high, right? Like here. So what could be the verdict here? What could be the verdict here? Well, I do expect something like this. I found on Twitter a very good comparison to the current market developments. Usually we are talking about the bull or bear markets, right? That's the standard, right? But what I found on Twitter, it was quite good one. We are right now in a kangaroo market, right? More upside, more downside, and again upside, and again downside, right? So like the kangaroo. And yes, I do expect, because of these witches, that market may want to try to manipulate higher, right? How high? I don't know. Maybe we are going to play out this over under around 9,720, right? Or maybe we are going to revisit Riley base drop. Maybe we are going to revisit the supply around 9,900, right? That's from the, of course, seller's perspective. So let's switch lower. Let's have a look where we are. Let's switch to intraday chart, right? And I've been making the measure on Friday. All right. And look, guys. the bounce right here, right now, is not accidental. It's not at all accidental, right? Of course, we have this. Of course, we have this supply zone over here, right? The first Tokio consolidation, and that's what probably gonna be tested around the US cash open. So, trying to summarize, Nasdaq ahead of the cash open in US, right? Where we are. If you remember, I just mentioned a second ago from the daily chart this green line, right? That maybe more stops to come, and this is quite good point when it comes to this possible demand from the intraday perspective, right? Around 9,350 based on my chart. So that's where probably bulls are going to try to defend the levels at the beginning of the US session, and as I mentioned, bears around consolidation from the Tokio, all right? And if we are going to take that out, meaning that there is a possibility, right, to make such a similar measure and retest of 9,724, so over under from the daily chart. So that's Nasdaq. Let's have a look what we have when it comes to S&P. Okay, so S&P weekly chart, ideal reaction post FOMC, right, at supply, right? What I see here from the weekly, so from a little bit higher time frame perspective, we might try to finish the business. We might try to create the swing high, right? So we might see the rise as high as levels close to 3,200 based on the weekly chart. Where we are right now, we are right now at the base, right? So I'm not surprised market is trying to create lower shadow over here based on this break to the upside from here, all right? So wide range for now, 2,950 and 3,200, 3,230 from the weekly chart. Let's have a look what we have lower on the S&P. And the lower is here, right? Let's make it like this. From the daily chart perspective, so the green color, I think this time compared to what we've seen on the Nasdaq, weekly and daily works in comparison, right? So on a daily, we've seen this action, so we've seen here this action. Why we are building the lower shadow here? Because of this base, right? So there was a breakout, so we are testing the base. If the market, as we discussed on the Nasdaq, is going to look for stops below pre-market lows, we have this whole nice consolidation, and 50% is around 2,880, 2,860 more or less when it comes to the S&P. Where are the sellers from the daily chart? Sellers around Friday high with the stops above. So sellers from the daily 3,100 and again 3,200, 3,230 based on the swing high. So a little bit narrower here. But I would be very careful, right? Switching lower to intraday chart. What we have here, let's make it like this. Very aggressive, very ugly sell-off, right? We are testing right now this small consolidation, okay, and 50% of that small consolidation, but don't forget about this higher consolidation we discussed a second ago, and the levels never been tested, right? So what's the plan? Of course, buyers are trying to defend this one, or if we are going to double that one, that's gonna looks like this, so somewhere between 860 to 845. And upside, no change here as discussed, based on the daily chart. So retest and stop count above Friday high, and then over under around 3,230, 3,200, right? And finally, let's have a look what we have in Europe. Let's have a look what we have when it comes to the German DAX. Just one second, where I have the DAX. There you go. Okay. So what is going on here? DAX been out of everything ahead of the Fed, but it was probably related, you know, to the action. Just guys, let's go and retest the supply, right? Then strong rejection. Right now, what we are testing the opposite bottom over here, right? So look for 11,500, 11,400. This possible over under. So. From the weekly chart perspective, very ugly, very ugly for now. 11,500, 12,500, almost 13,000 from the weekly when it comes to the DAX, right? The good thing is when it comes to the sellers, the price action we've seen, on Friday. Okay, we stayed below the old supply, right? We stayed below the old one over here. I've been thinking that maybe we are going to retest. I've been thinking that maybe DAX is going to retest 12,400, but no, we gap down strongly and we are fighting around the demand from the daily chart. But we are below very significant level, all right? And the level hasn't been tested on Friday. So similar to S&P, there is a possibility market is going to, at some point, if we are going to see central banks manipulation, we might see the market trying to hit the stops from the Friday high, hitting as high as 12,300. I know, but guys, the distances are bigger because the volatility is higher. So what is the best thing to do when volatility is higher? Lower your exposure. Guys, that was my pleasure to make the update for you when it comes to the weekly open indices. We gap down, brutal session in during the Tokyo hours. Market is trying bounce during the early European session, but of course US guys are gonna to decide for the direction. That's it for me. I'm here, I'm around. If necessary, I'm going to make another update. Have a good trading session. Take care and see you around, guys. Goodbye.